The ink stain on Olivia Emerson's index finger had been there so long it seemed permanent, a badge of honor earned through countless hours bent over ledgers at her father's general store in Rock Springs, Wyoming, where the summer heat of 1878 made the pages stick together and her penmanship somehow grew more elegant with each passing day. She had just finished copying out the month's inventory in her flowing script when the cowboy walked through the door, his shadow falling across her workspace like a question mark waiting to be answered. He was tall, sun-weathered, with dark hair that needed cutting and eyes the color of creek water in early spring. Dust covered his clothes, and he carried himself with the cautious grace of a man who had spent more time in the saddle than in civilization. He removed his hat when he saw her, revealing a face that might have been handsome if not for the worry lines creasing his forehead. "Can I help you?" Olivia asked, setting down her pen and flexing her cramped fingers. "I need paper," he said, his voice rougher than she expected. "And envelopes. Maybe some ink if you have it." "We have all of that." She stood, smoothing her dark blue dress, aware of how plain she must look with her brown hair pinned back in a simple bun, and no adornment save for the small silver locket her mother had given her before the fever took her 3 years ago. "How much do you need?" "Enough for a letter." He shifted his weight, uncomfortable. "Maybe 2. She gathered the supplies, wrapping them carefully in brown paper. "That will be 15 cents. He counted out the coins slowly, and she noticed his hands were shaking slightly. When he reached for the package, their fingers brushed, and he pulled back as if burned. "Thank you, miss." He turned to leave, then stopped. "You wouldn't happen to know if there is anyone in town who writes letters for people, would you? For a fee, I mean?" Olivia tilted her head, studying him with new interest. "You mean a scribe?" "I suppose that is what you would call it." His jaw tightened. "I can read well enough, but my writing is terrible, like chicken scratches in the dirt, and I need to write home to my mother. She has not heard from me in 6 months." Something in his voice, a mixture of shame and determination, made Olivia speak before she could think better of it. "I could write it for you." He looked at her with surprise. "You?" "My handwriting is quite good. Better than the schoolteacher's, actually, though Miss Patterson would never admit it." She smiled slightly. "I used to help her grade compositions before she decided I was making her look bad." "I could not ask you to do that." "You are not asking. I am offering." Olivia came around the counter, suddenly bold. "I spend all day writing inventory lists and order forms. It would be nice to write something that actually matters to someone." He studied her face for a long moment, and she felt heat rise to her cheeks under his scrutiny. "My name is Samuel Zimmerman. I work at the cattle ranch 15 miles north of here." "Olivia Emerson, this is my father's store." "I could pay you," Samuel said quickly. 10 cents a letter?" 5 cents is fine. When do you need it done?" "I have the afternoon free, if you have time now, I mean. If not, I can come back another day." Olivia glanced at the empty store. Her father had gone to Cheyenne for supplies and would not return until tomorrow. Her younger brother was supposed to be watching the counter, but Daniel had slipped out an hour ago to go fishing, leaving her alone. "I have time now. Let me get my good paper and pen." She led Samuel to the small back room where her father kept his desk and accounts. It was cooler here, away from the afternoon sun, and she could hear the wind rattling the window frame. She settled into her father's chair and pulled out a sheet of cream-colored stationery, the expensive kind they saved for special occasions. "You do not have to use the good paper," Samuel protested. "Yes, I do. Your mother deserves to receive a proper letter." She dipped her pen in the inkwell and looked up at him expectantly. "What do you want to say?" He stood awkwardly by the door for a moment before pulling up a wooden crate to sit on. "Dear Mother," he began, then stopped. "How should I start?" "Just tell me what you want her to know, and I will make it sound right." So he talked, haltingly at first, then with growing ease. He told her about the ranch where he worked, about the cattle drives and the hard but honest work. He spoke of the Wyoming landscape, the way the mountains looked purple at sunset and how the stars seemed close enough to touch on clear nights. He admitted he had meant to write sooner, but kept putting it off because his writing was so poor he was ashamed to send it. Olivia's pen flew across the page, translating his rough words into elegant sentences that captured his meaning while adding a polish he could never have managed himself. She found herself drawn into his story, imagining the life he described so different from her own routine of store-keeping and ledgers. "Tell her I'm saving my wages," he continued. "Tell her I plan to have my own ranch someday. A small one, but mine. Tell her I think about her cooking and her garden and how she used to sing while doing the washing. Tell her I miss home, but I'm building something good here." When Olivia finally set down her pen, she had filled 2 pages with her flowing script. She read it back to him, and she saw his eyes grow bright. "That is exactly what I wanted to say," he said quietly. "But you made it sound like something worth reading." "It was worth reading before I wrote it down. I just gave it a voice." She folded the letter carefully and slipped it into an envelope. "What is your mother's address?" he told her, and she addressed the envelope in the same beautiful hand. When she handed it to him, he held it like something precious. "I do not know how to thank you properly," Samuel said. "You already did. You trusted me with something important." She stood, suddenly aware of how small the room was with both of them in it. "If you need another letter written, you know where to find me. I might take you up on that." He smiled for the first time, and it transformed his face entirely. "I should write more often, maybe every month." "That would be nice, for your mother, I mean." They walked back to the front of the store together, and Samuel paused at the door. "Can I ask you something, Miss Emerson?" "Of course." "Why did you offer to help me? You do not know me at all." Olivia considered the question. "I suppose because you cared enough to ask for help instead of just not writing. That says something about your character." After he left, Olivia found herself thinking about him throughout the rest of the day, about his rough hands and gentle voice, about the way he spoke of his mother with such obvious love. She wondered if he would truly come back in a month, or if this had been a one-time encounter. 4 weeks later, almost to the day, Samuel walked through the door again. This time he was cleaner, his hair neatly trimmed, and he smiled when he saw her. "I need your services again, Miss Emerson, if you're willing." "I am." "Did your mother receive the last letter?" "She did. She wrote back." He pulled a letter from his pocket, the paper worn from repeated readings. "She said it was the most beautiful letter she had ever received from me. She cried when she read it." Olivia felt a warm glow of satisfaction. "I am glad." They settled into the back room again, falling into an easy rhythm. This time Samuel was less hesitant, his words flowing more freely. He told his mother about a difficult calf birth he had helped with, about a new horse he had been training, about the men he worked with and the simple pleasures of his days. But he also asked Olivia questions between paragraphs. What was Rock Springs like? How long had her family owned the store? What did she do when she was not working? She found herself answering honestly, telling him about her father's business struggles, about how her brother Daniel was 15 and restless, dreaming of adventure beyond their small town. She spoke of her mother's death and how she had taken over running the household while also helping in the store. She mentioned the books she loved to read, borrowed from the small town library, and how she sometimes felt trapped by the endless sameness of her days. "You should see more of the world," Samuel said. "Someone with your talents." "What talents? Penmanship?" She laughed. "That hardly seems like a skill worth traveling for." "It is not just your handwriting. You have a way with words. The things you write sound like poetry, even when I'm just talking about cattle and dirt." The compliment made her flush with pleasure. "You are easy to write for. You actually care about what you are saying." When the second letter was finished, Samuel paid her the 5 cents, but he lingered at the door again. "Miss Emerson, I was wondering if you might consider letting me buy you supper sometime, to thank you properly for your help." Olivia's heart quickened. "That would be nice, but you do not need to thank me. This is a business arrangement." "Maybe I want it to be more than that." She met his eyes, seeing nervousness there that matched her own. "Then yes, I would like to have supper with you." They arranged to meet at the town's small restaurant the following Saturday. Olivia spent the week in a state of nervous anticipation, second-guessing her acceptance. She barely knew this man, but every time she thought about calling it off, she remembered his smile and the way he spoke about his dreams, and she kept the appointment. The dinner was awkward at first, both of them too formal, too polite. But as the evening wore on and they shared a simple meal of beef stew and fresh bread, the conversation grew easier. Samuel told her about growing up in Missouri, about leaving home at 19 to seek his fortune out west. He spoke of the loneliness of the cowboy life, of men who drifted from ranch to ranch with no ties and no futures. "That is not the life I want," he said firmly. "I want what my parents had, a home, a family, something to build and protect." "Why Wyoming?" Olivia asked, "as there are ranches all over." "The land here speaks to me. I know that sounds foolish, but when I first rode through these parts 2 years ago, I felt like I had found where I belonged." He looked at her intently. "Have you ever felt that way about anything?" "I'm not sure I've had the chance to find out," she admitted. "I have never been anywhere else." "Maybe someday you will." They walked back to the store together in the warm evening air, the sun setting behind the distant mountains in brilliant shades of orange and gold. When they reached her door, Samuel took her hand carefully, as if she might break. "Can I see you again? Not for letter writing, just to see you." "Yes," Olivia said softly, "I would like that." Over the next 3 months, Samuel became a regular presence in her life. He would ride into town on his days off, and they would walk together through Rock Springs' dusty streets, talking about everything and nothing. He still came for letters once a month, and Olivia treasured those sessions in the back room, the intimacy of translating his thoughts into written words. She learned more about him with each visit. He had 2 younger sisters back in Missouri, both married now with children of their own. His father had been a farmer but died when Samuel was 17. Leaving the family in debt. Samuel had worked for 2 years to pay off what they owed before heading west to make his own way. He sent money home when he could, helping his mother maintain the small house where he had grown up. "She keeps telling me to stop sending money and start saving for my own place," Samuel told Olivia one afternoon as they sat by the creek on the edge of town. "But I cannot stand the thought of her struggling." "That is one of the things I admire about you," Olivia said. "Your loyalty to your family." "What do you admire about me?" He grinned. "I want to hear more." She pushed his shoulder playfully. "Fishing for compliments now?" "Always. Tell me." "Your honesty, your work ethic, the way you treat everyone with respect, from the ranch owner to the stable boy, the way you talk about your dreams like they are inevitable instead of impossible." She paused. "The way you look at me." "How do I look at you?" "Like I am something precious." Samuel reached for her hand, lacing his fingers through hers. "That is because you are." "Olivia, I know we have not known each other long, but I need to tell you something." Her heart raced. "What?" "I am falling in love with you. I think I started the day I walked into your father's store and you offered to help a stranger. Every time I see you, every letter we write together, every conversation we share, it just gets stronger." He turned to face her fully. "I am not a wealthy man. I do not have much to offer yet. But I'm going to have my own place someday, and when I do, I want you there with me, if you will have me." Olivia felt tears prick her eyes. "Samuel, I am falling in love with you too. I did not think it was possible to feel this way about someone, but you have changed everything." He kissed her then, gentle and careful, and Olivia felt the world shift beneath her feet. When they pulled apart, both were smiling. "I should talk to your father," Samuel said, "to do this properly. He's going to ask if you can support me. I can, maybe not in luxury, but we would not starve. And I'm close to having enough saved for a down payment on land. Another year, maybe less." But when Samuel approached Olivia's father the following week, he met with unexpected resistance. Marcus Emerson was a practical man who had built his business through careful planning and hard work. He looked at the young cowboy standing in his store and saw only risk. You work for wages, Marcus said bluntly. You have no property, no security. My daughter deserves better than an uncertain future. I understand your concern, sir, Samuel replied, keeping his voice steady, though Olivia could see his jaw clench. But I'm not asking to marry her tomorrow. I'm asking permission to court her properly with the goal of marriage. When I've established myself, I will have my own ranch within 2 years. I give you my word. Words are easy. Actions matter. Marcus crossed his arms. Come back when you have something real to offer. Olivia, who had been listening from the back room, came forward angrily. Father, that is not fair. Samuel is a good man. I am not saying he is not. But good men do not always make good husbands. I want security for you, Olivia. I want you to have the life your mother and I built together. Not struggle on some hard scrabble piece of land while your husband chases dreams. Mother married you when you had nothing but a wagon full of goods and ambition, Olivia shot back. You told me that story 100 times. Why is it different now? Because I know how hard it was. I do not want that for you. The argument continued for days, creating tension in the household. Daniel, catching wind of the situation, sided with his sister, which only made Marcus more stubborn. Finally, Olivia made a decision. I am 23 years old, she told her father one evening after they closed the store. I am old enough to make my own choices. I love Samuel, and I'm going to continue seeing him whether you approve or not. Marcus looked at his daughter, seeing perhaps for the first time that she was no longer the little girl he remembered. You would defy me over this? I would, but I would rather have your blessing. He sighed heavily. I just want you to be happy and safe. Samuel makes me happy, and he will keep me safe. Trust me, Father, please. Eventually, Marcus relented, though he made it clear he expected Samuel to prove himself. Samuel accepted the challenge with grace, determined to win over his future father-in-law through actions rather than words. The letters home continued monthly, but now they took on new importance. Samuel's mother, Sarah Zimmerman, began writing back more frequently, and she started addressing questions to Olivia, asking about the young woman who wrote such beautiful letters for her son. Eventually, Samuel began dictating responses that included both his words and Olivia's, creating a strange hybrid correspondence that delighted his mother. She says she cannot wait to meet you, Samuel told Olivia after reading his mother's latest letter. She wants to know when we are getting married so she can plan a visit. What did you tell her? Olivia asked, her pen poised over paper. That I am working on it. That I need to save more money and buy land first, that I want to be able to offer you a real home, not just promises. Samuel, I do not need a grand house, I just need you. I know, but I need this. I need to prove to your father and to myself that I can provide for you properly. Winter came hard that year, with snow piling high in the streets and temperatures dropping so low that the ink froze in the bottle overnight. Samuel's visits became less frequent as the ranch work intensified, with cattle needing constant care to survive the brutal cold. But he always made it to town for the monthly letter, no matter how bad the weather. It was during one of these visits, in late January of 1879, that everything changed. Samuel arrived covered in snow, his face red from the cold, but his eyes were bright with excitement. I have news, he said as soon as he saw Olivia. Big news. She quickly ushered him into the back room where a small stove provided warmth. What happened? The ranch owner, Mr. Patterson, is selling off parcels of his land. He is getting old and wants to downsize. He offered me 200 acres at a good price with terms I can manage. Olivia, it is perfect grazing land with a creek running through it and timber for building. I can make the down payment next month. Olivia felt her breath catch. Samuel, that is wonderful. There is more. He is willing to let me stay on as foreman while I build my own herd. I will have steady wages plus my own operation growing on the side. It is everything I have been working toward. He took her hands. It means I can marry you. Soon. This spring if you will have me. Are you asking me? Samuel dropped to one knee on the rough wooden floor, still holding her hands. Olivia Emerson, you have given my words beauty and my life meaning. You have believed in me when others doubted. I love you more than I knew it was possible to love another person. Will you marry me? Will you build this life with me?" "Yes," she said, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." He stood and kissed her, and Olivia felt joy bubble up inside her like a spring. When they finally pulled apart, they were both laughing. "We need to write to your mother immediately, Olivia said. "She will want to know." So they sat together composing what was perhaps the most important letter Olivia had ever written. She described their courtship, her love for Samuel, and her excitement about their future. Samuel dictated his own feelings, his voice thick with emotion, as he told his mother he had found the woman he wanted to spend his life with. "Tell her you would love her," Samuel said. "Tell her you are exactly the kind of daughter she always hoped I would bring home." When the letter was finished, Olivia signed her own name at the bottom for the first time, adding a personal note in her elegant script. "I promise to make your son happy and to love him with my whole heart. I hope to meet you soon and earn your blessing in person." Marcus Emerson's reaction to the engagement was complicated. He could see his daughter's happiness, could see that Samuel had indeed done what he promised. But he still worried about the hardships of ranch life, the isolation, the constant struggle. "She will not be alone," Samuel assured him. "My nearest neighbor is the Patterson Ranch, just 5 miles away, and I will bring her to town every week if she wants, more often if she needs." "What about children? Who will help her when her time comes?" "We will make arrangements. There is a midwife in town, and we will plan ahead." Samuel met Marcus's eyes squarely. "Sir, I know you think I am not good enough for her. Maybe you are right. But I am going to spend every day of my life trying to be the man she deserves. That is my promise to you." Finally, grudgingly, Marcus gave his blessing. "You hurt her, and I will come after you with a shotgun." "I would expect nothing less." The wedding was planned for April, giving Samuel time to make the down payment on his land and start building a small house. Olivia spent her free hours sewing her wedding dress and preparing her trousseau, excitement building with each passing day. But in early March, disaster struck. A late winter storm trapped Samuel at the ranch for 2 weeks, making travel impossible. When he finally made it to town, he looked haggard and worried. "We lost 30 head of cattle," he told Olivia grimly. "The storm was worse than anyone expected. Mr. Patterson is hurting financially, and he is asking if I can move up my down payment to help cover his losses. If I do not, he might have to sell the land to someone else." "How much do you need?" $200 more than I have." It was a staggering sum. Olivia felt her dreams crumbling. "What are we going to do?" "I do not know. I've been trying to figure it out for days." Samuel ran his hands through his hair. "I could ask for a loan, but no bank is going to lend to a cowboy with no collateral. I could try to find extra work, but there is nothing around here that pays well enough, fast enough," Olivia thought furiously. Then an idea struck her. "What if I could get the money?" "Olivia, no, I'm not taking money from you or your father. Not from us, from my work." She explained her idea rapidly. "There are ranchers and businessmen all over Wyoming who need correspondence written. Legal documents, business letters, contracts. I have been writing for you for almost a year now, and I am good at it. What if I advertise my services? I could charge more for business writing than personal letters. If I work hard, I might be able to raise the money in a month." Samuel looked skeptical. "That is a lot of letters to write." "Then I will write a lot of letters, Samuel. This is our future. Let me fight for it too." He pulled her close. "You amaze me, you know that?" "Is that a yes?" "It is a yes, but I will work extra hours too. We will do this together." Olivia placed advertisements in the Rock Springs newspaper and sent notices to neighboring towns. She offered her services as a professional scribe, emphasizing her excellent penmanship and way with words. The response was overwhelming. Ranchers who needed legal correspondence, businessmen who wanted their letters to sound professional, even women who wanted love letters written to distant sweethearts. For the next month, Olivia barely slept. She spent her days helping in the store and her nights bent over her desk, writing letter after letter. Her hand cramped constantly and ink stains covered her fingers, but she kept working. Samuel contributed what he could from extra jobs, and slowly, painfully, they accumulated the necessary funds. It was Daniel who suggested one final push. "What about the schoolteacher?" he asked one evening. "Miss Patterson has terrible handwriting, but she has to write reports for the Territorial Education Board. Bet she would pay good money for someone to copy those out properly." Olivia approached the schoolteacher the next day, swallowing her pride. Miss Patterson looked surprised to see her former helper standing at the schoolhouse door. "I heard you are writing letters for money," Miss Patterson said coolly. "I am, and I am very good at it." Olivia met her eyes steadily. "You need your reports copied out. I need the work. We both know my handwriting is better than yours." For a moment she thought the teacher would refuse out of spite. Then Miss Patterson laughed. "You always did have nerve, Olivia Emerson. All right. I will pay you $20 to copy out 3 months of reports, but they have to be perfect." "They will be." Olivia worked through the night to finish the reports, checking and rechecking every word. When she handed them to Miss Patterson the next morning, the teacher studied them for a long time. "These are excellent," she admitted finally. "Your handwriting truly is better than mine, better than anyone's in this territory, I would wager." She paid Olivia the $20. "For what it is worth, I hope you and your cowboy are very happy." With the additional money, Olivia and Samuel finally had enough. They went to Mr. Patterson together and made the down payment on the land. Samuel signed the papers with his rough, unpracticed hand, while Olivia watched, her heart full. "You did it," she said as they walked away from the Patterson ranch, the deed safely in Samuel's pocket. "We did it," he corrected. "I could not have done this without you. Olivia, I know I am supposed to be the provider, the one who makes everything happen, but having you as my partner, working beside me, fighting for our future together, it means more than I can say." "That is what marriage is supposed to be," Olivia said, "a partnership. 2 people building something neither could build alone." The wedding took place on a brilliant April morning, with wildflowers blooming across the prairie and the sky impossibly blue. Sarah Zimmerman had made the long journey from Missouri and embraced Olivia like a daughter the moment they met. "I have been reading your beautiful letters for a year," Sarah said, tears in her eyes. "I feel like I already know you. Thank you for loving my boy. Thank you for raising such a good man." The ceremony was simple, held in the town's small church with most of Rock Springs in attendance. Olivia wore her handmade dress of ivory silk, and Samuel had a new suit that made him look uncomfortable but handsome. When they exchanged vows, his voice was steady and sure. "I promise to love you, protect you, and cherish you all the days of my life. I promise to build our home together and raise our children in love and faith. I promise to honor the gift you have given me by believing in my dreams." Olivia's vows were equally heartfelt. "I promise to stand beside you through hardship and joy. I promise to be your partner in all things, your comfort in difficult times, and your companion in this adventure we are beginning. I promise to love you more with each passing day." When Samuel kissed his bride, the church erupted in applause. Marcus Emerson, standing in the front row, wiped his eyes discreetly. Even he could not deny the love shining between his daughter and her new husband. The celebration lasted into the evening, with music and dancing and more food than the small town had seen in months. Samuel and Olivia danced together under the stars, both giddy with happiness and the surreal realization that they were finally married. "Ready to go home?" Samuel asked as the party wound down. "Where is home exactly?" "I was hoping you could tell me. The house is not finished yet. We could stay in town tonight, or we could ride out to the land and camp under the stars. Your choice." Olivia did not hesitate. "Let us go to our land. I want to see it." They rode out together in the moonlight, Olivia sitting in front of Samuel on his horse, wrapped in his arms. The land was beautiful, rolling prairie dotted with cottonwood trees, with the mountains visible in the distance. The creek Samuel had mentioned sparkled in the moonlight, and she could already imagine where they would build their house, where they would plant a garden where their children would play. Samuel had set up a tent in a sheltered spot near the creek. Inside, he had laid out blankets and pillows, creating a cozy nest. "It is not much," he said apologetically. "It is perfect," Olivia assured him. "This is our beginning." They made love for the first time that night, tentative and tender, learning each other's bodies with careful reverence. Afterward, they lay tangled together, listening to the creek and the wind in the trees. "I am so happy I could burst," Olivia whispered. "Then we are even." Samuel kissed her forehead. "I love you, Mrs. Zimmerman. I love you too." The next months were a whirlwind of activity. Samuel worked on building their house while continuing his duties as foreman at the Patterson Ranch. Olivia helped when she could, but she also maintained her letter-writing business, which had grown beyond anything she expected. People from all over the territory were requesting her services, and she found herself with a steady income that contributed significantly to their household. "You should advertise more widely," Samuel suggested one evening, as they sat on the porch of their nearly completed house watching the sunset. "You could probably charge twice what you are charging now, and people would still pay it. You have a real talent, Olivia." "Maybe when things settle down. Right now I am more interested in making this house a home." The house was small but well built, with 2 rooms that would expand as their family grew. Olivia spent happy hours arranging their few possessions, sewing curtains, and planting a garden. Sarah Zimmerman had given her seeds from Missouri, and Olivia tended them carefully, determined to make things grow in this harsh but beautiful land. In July, Samuel bought their first cattle, 3 cows, and a bull. It was not much, but it was a start. He built a small barn and corral, working from dawn until dark to create the infrastructure they needed. Olivia watched him with pride, seeing how he transformed raw land into a working ranch through sheer determination and skill. Their first winter as a married couple was challenging. The house was warm enough, but supplies were difficult to come by when snow blocked the roads. They learned to plan ahead, to store food and supplies to make do with what they had. But they were happy, cocooned together in their small house, building their life one day at a time. Olivia continued writing letters throughout the winter. Grateful for the income and the mental stimulation, she had regular clients now, businessmen who relied on her to make their correspondence professional and persuasive. She wrote contracts, legal documents, business proposals, even a few romantic letters for tongue-tied suitors. "You are famous, Ring," Samuel teased her one evening. "The finest writer in all of Wyoming." "Hardly, but I am grateful people value my work." In early spring of 1880, Olivia discovered she was pregnant. The news filled them both with joy and terror in equal measure. They were going to be parents, responsible for a new life. It seemed both miraculous and overwhelming. Samuel became impossibly protective, trying to prevent Olivia from doing any heavy work. She tolerated his concern for a while before finally putting her foot down. "I am pregnant, not fragile," she told him firmly. "Women have been having babies since the beginning of time. I can still work in the garden and write letters and cook dinner. You do not need to treat me like delicate china." "I just want to keep you safe." "I know, and I love you for it. But you have to trust me to know my own limits." Sarah Zimmerman came to visit in August, arriving a month before the baby was due. She and Olivia took to each other immediately, and Sarah's presence eased much of Olivia's anxiety about the approaching birth. They spent hours talking about motherhood, about Sarah's experiences raising Samuel and his sisters, about hopes and fears for the future. "My son chose well," Sarah told Olivia one afternoon as they sat shelling peas together. "I knew from your letters that you were special, but meeting you in person confirmed it. You have strength, grace, and kindness. Those are the qualities that matter most." "I am terrified I will not know how to be a good mother," Olivia admitted. "Every new mother feels that way. But you will learn. You will make mistakes, and that is all right. What matters is that you love your child and do your best. That is all any of us can do." The baby arrived on a cool September evening. After a labor that lasted 12 hours and left Olivia exhausted but triumphant, Samuel held his son for the first time with tears streaming down his face. marveling at the tiny perfect features and the surprisingly strong grip. "What should we name him?" he asked, his voice hushed with wonder. "What about William?" Olivia suggested. "After your father." "William Zimmerman." Samuel tested the name. "I like it. My father would have been honored." The baby thrived, growing fat and healthy on his mother's milk. Olivia discovered that motherhood came more naturally than she expected, though it was exhausting in ways she had not anticipated. She had less time for letter writing now, but her clients were understanding, and she managed to maintain her business by working in small bursts when William slept. Samuel was a devoted father, spending every free moment with his son. He would carry William around the ranch, explaining everything they saw, talking to the baby as if he could understand every word. Olivia would watch them together and feel her heart swell with love for both of them. As William grew, the ranch prospered. Samuel's herd increased each year, and his reputation as a skilled cattleman spread throughout the territory. They were not wealthy, but they were comfortable, building their future steadily through hard work and careful planning. In the spring of 1882, a stranger arrived at their ranch. He was well-dressed, middle-aged, with the air of someone accustomed to getting what he wanted. He introduced himself as Thomas Merrill, editor of the Wyoming Territory Gazette. "I have been hearing about a woman with remarkable penmanship who writes letters for half the territory," he told Olivia. "I wanted to meet you myself." Olivia, holding 2-year-old William on her hip, regarded him cautiously. "What can I do for you, Mr. Merrill?" "I would like to offer you a position. My newspaper needs someone to write articles, copy documents, handle correspondence. The work would be regular, and the pay would be better than what you are making now. You could work from home, sending material by post." Samuel had come in from the barn during this conversation. "That sounds like a significant commitment," he said carefully. "It would be, but I believe Mrs. Zimmerman's talents are being wasted on random letters and business documents. She could be contributing to something larger, informing the territory, shaping public opinion, documenting our history as it happens." Olivia felt a thrill of excitement at the prospect, but she also looked at her husband and son, at the life they had built. "Can I think about it?" "Of course, but do not think too long. Talent like yours is rare, and I am not the only one who has noticed." After Merrill left, Olivia and Samuel sat on their porch watching William play with the dog they had acquired the previous year. "Do you want to do it?" Samuel asked. "Part of me does. It sounds exciting and important, but I'm worried about having enough time for everything. For you, for William, for the ranch." "You have always supported my dreams," Samuel said slowly. "Maybe it is time I supported yours. If you want to write for the newspaper, we will make it work. We will find a way." Olivia leaned her head on his shoulder. "What did I do to deserve you?" "You offered to write a letter for a cowboy who could not string together a proper sentence. Best decision either of us ever made." After careful consideration, Olivia accepted the position, but on modified terms. She would write 2 articles per month and handle selected correspondence, but she would not commit to more than that. It was enough to satisfy her intellectual curiosity without overwhelming her family responsibilities. Her articles for the Gazette focused on life in the territory, on the struggles and triumphs of ordinary people trying to build something lasting in a harsh land. She wrote about ranching and farming, about the challenges of education in rural areas, about the role of women in taming the West. Her writing was elegant and insightful, and readers responded enthusiastically. "You are becoming quite well known," Samuel told her one evening, showing her a letter from a reader in Cheyenne praising her latest article. "It feels strange," Olivia admitted. "I'm just writing about our lives, about things I see and experience every day. I did not expect people to care so much." "You make people care? That is your gift." In the spring of 1884, Olivia gave birth to their second child, a daughter they named Grace. She had Olivia's dark hair and Samuel's gray-green eyes, and her arrival completed their family in a way Olivia had not anticipated. William, now 4 years old, was fascinated by his baby sister and appointed himself her protector. The ranch continued to grow, and Samuel's dream of owning a substantial spread was becoming reality. They had expanded their property twice, adding more grazing land and building a larger barn. They employed 2 hands now, young men who worked hard and treated Olivia with respectful courtesy. But success brought new challenges. There was more work than ever, more decisions to make, more responsibilities to juggle. Sometimes Olivia felt stretched too thin, trying to be a good mother, a supportive wife, a capable writer, and a ranch partner all at once. It was Sarah Zimmerman, visiting for an extended stay in the summer of 1885, who noticed Olivia's exhaustion. "You are trying to do too much," Sarah said bluntly one afternoon. "Something has to give, or you will make yourself sick." "I can handle it," Olivia insisted, though she knew her mother-in-law was right. She had been feeling run down for weeks, struggling to keep up with everything. "Let me help more. I can watch the children while you write. I can help with the cooking and cleaning. That is why I am here. I do not want to burden you." "Family is not a burden. Let me be useful." With Sarah's help, Olivia found her balance again. She learned to delegate, to ask for help, to accept that she could not do everything perfectly. It was a hard lesson, but an important one. One evening in late summer, as they sat together watching William and Grace play in the yard, Samuel took Olivia's hand. "Do you remember the day we met?" he asked. "Of course, you came into the store needing paper and envelopes. You looked so uncomfortable asking for help." "I was terrified. I had put off writing to my mother for months because I was ashamed of my handwriting, and then you offered to help me. This beautiful woman with ink-stained fingers and the kindest eyes I had ever seen." He smiled at the memory. "I fell in love with you that day, I think, or at least started falling. By the time you finished writing that first letter, I knew I wanted to come back. Not just for the letters, but to see you again." "I felt it too," Olivia said softly. "That connection. I told myself it was just business, that I was helping a customer. But I thought about you constantly between that first visit and when you came back a month later. Your handwriting brought us together. It is strange to think about. If I had been able to write my own letters, I never would have had an excuse to talk to you. We might have passed each other in town and never known what we could have been. I am grateful for your terrible handwriting then." Samuel laughed. "It is still terrible. I practice sometimes trying to improve, but it never looks like anything but chicken scratches. I do not care. I love you exactly as you are." As the years passed, their life settled into a comfortable rhythm. The ranch prospered beyond Samuel's early dreams, becoming one of the most successful operations in the territory. Olivia's writing career flourished, her articles reaching readers across Wyoming and beyond. William and Grace grew into bright, healthy children who loved the ranch and the wide open spaces. In 1887, Samuel surprised Olivia by building an addition to their house, a small room with large windows and a sturdy desk. "What is this?" she asked, standing in the doorway of the new space. "Your writing room. I know you have been working at the kitchen table or the desk in our bedroom, always squeezed into corners. You deserve a proper space for your work, somewhere quiet where you can think and write without interruption." Olivia walked into the room, running her hand over the smooth wood of the desk. It was positioned to catch the morning light, with shelves for her supplies and a comfortable chair. "Samuel, this is too much." "It is not enough. You have given me everything I dreamed of and more. This is just a room. But maybe it will help you do the work you love." She kissed him, tasting salt tears she had not realized she was crying. "I love you so much it hurts sometimes." "Good hurt or bad hurt?" "The best kind of hurt. The kind that reminds me how lucky I am." The writing room became Olivia's sanctuary. She would spend hours there, crafting articles, writing letters for clients, and working on a project she had started in secret, a memoir of her early days with Samuel and the building of their ranch. She was not sure anyone would want to read it, but she wrote it anyway, preserving their story for their children and perhaps their grandchildren. In the fall of 1889, Wyoming achieved statehood, and the territory that had been their home transformed into something new. Samuel was asked to run for the state legislature, but he declined. "I am a rancher, not a politician," he told the men who came to recruit him, But my wife would be a better representative than half the men you are considering. She knows this land and its people better than anyone. Women cannot hold office, one of the men said dismissively. Then you are losing out on a lot of wisdom and capability. Samuel's tone was hard. My wife helped build this state as much as any man here. Do not dismiss her contributions because of her gender. After the men left, Olivia hugged Samuel tightly. Thank you for defending me. I was not defending you. I was stating facts. You are brilliant and capable, and it is frustrating that the world does not always recognize that. You recognize it. That is what matters most to me. In 1891, their third child was born, another son they named Matthew. William was now 11, Grace 7, and both were delighted to have a baby brother. The house, which had seemed so spacious when they first built it, now felt crowded with 3 children, but it was a happy kind of crowded, full of laughter and noise and life. Olivia had to cut back on her writing temporarily to care for the new baby, but her editor at the Gazette was understanding. Your articles are worth waiting for, Thomas Merrill wrote. Take the time you need. We will be here when you are ready. Samuel's mother passed away peacefully in her sleep in the spring of 1892. Samuel was devastated, but he took comfort in knowing she had lived to see him succeed, to meet her grandchildren, to know he was happy. They made the long journey to Missouri for the funeral, the whole family traveling together to say goodbye to the woman who had raised such a good man. At the funeral, Samuel's sisters shared stories about their mother and their brother, painting pictures of Samuel's childhood that Olivia had never heard. She learned about the boy who brought home stray animals and defended weaker children from bullies, the young man who worked himself to exhaustion to pay off his father's debts, the son who wrote beautiful letters home even though he could barely hold a pen properly. Wait, Samuel's older sister Clara said, confused. You wrote terrible letters. Your handwriting was atrocious. Samuel smiled through his tears. That is why I married a woman who could write for me. Best decision I ever made. On the train ride home, as the children slept and the landscape rolled past, Samuel held Olivia close. I'm glad you were with me, he said quietly. I could not have done that without you. You are stronger than you know, but I am glad I could be there. My mother loved you so much. Did you know that? She told me once that you were the answer to prayers she had been saying since I was a boy. She wanted me to find someone who saw beyond the surface, who valued character and heart over wealth or status, someone who would be my partner in every sense of the word. I am honored she felt that way. She was right to pray for you. I did not know how much I needed you until I found you. The years continued to pass, marked by small triumphs and occasional setbacks, by the endless cycle of seasons on the ranch, by the growth of their children. William grew into a young man with his father's work ethic and his mother's quick mind. Grace was creative and spirited, always asking questions and challenging assumptions. Matthew was the baby, sweet-tempered and affectionate, beloved by his older siblings. In 1895, Olivia finally finished her memoir. She had been working on it for years, writing in stolen moments, crafting their story with the same care she brought to all her writing. She did not know what to do with it once it was complete, so she tucked it away in a drawer, satisfied simply to have finished. Samuel found it one day while looking for a map. He read the entire thing in one sitting, emerging from her writing room with red eyes. This is beautiful, he said, his voice thick with emotion. Olivia, you have to publish this. It is just our story. Why would anyone else care? Because it is not just our story, it is the story of everyone trying to build something in this country. It is about hard work and love and perseverance. It is about 2 people who found each other against unlikely odds and created a life together. People need to read this. I do not know if I am ready to share something so personal. Think about it, please. This is too good to hide in a drawer. Eventually, with Samuel's encouragement and Thomas Merrill's enthusiastic support, Olivia agreed to let the Gazette serialize her memoir. The response was overwhelming. Readers across the state followed her story eagerly, writing letters praising her honesty and the beauty of her prose. A publisher in New York expressed interest in printing it as a book. "I cannot believe this is happening," Olivia said, staring at the publisher's letter. "People actually want to read about us. I told you, your words matter. They always have." The book was published in 1897 under the title Letters Home, A Wyoming Love Story. It sold modestly but steadily, finding an audience among people who valued authentic stories about life in the West. Olivia received letters from readers telling her how much her story meant to them, how it inspired them to appreciate their own struggles and triumphs. But success as an author did not change her fundamental nature. She was still Olivia, still a rancher's wife and mother, still someone who valued family and home above all else. The book money went into savings for the children's education, into improvements for the ranch, into building something lasting for future generations. In the summer of 1900, as they celebrated the new century, Samuel and Olivia sat on their porch watching their children and grandchildren play in the yard. William had married the previous year and already had a son of his own. Grace was courting a young teacher from Rock Springs. Matthew, at 9 years old, was still their baby, though he protested loudly whenever anyone called him that. "We have built something good here," Samuel said, surveying the land that had been raw prairie when they started. Now there were fences and buildings, cultivated fields, and healthy cattle, a home that had stood for over 20 years. "We have," Olivia agreed. "Sometimes I think about that first day you walked into the store, and I can barely believe how far we have come." "Do you ever regret it? Marrying a cowboy with nothing but dreams and ambition?" "Not for a single moment. You gave me everything I never knew I wanted. Adventure, partnership, purpose, love. So much love." "I still cannot write worth a damn," Samuel said with a grin. "My handwriting is still terrible." "I know. I have been writing your letters for 22 years now. I do not expect that to change. Do you mind having to write for me all this time?" Olivia turned to look at her husband, seeing gray in his dark hair now, lines around his eyes from years of squinting into the sun, but still handsome, still the man she had fallen in love with over ink and paper. "Mind? Samuel, writing your letters has been one of the greatest joys of my life. Every word I wrote for you was an act of love. Every letter we sent together was a piece of our hearts shared with the people who matter to us. I would not trade that for anything." He kissed her then, soft and sweet, the kiss of two people who had grown together rather than apart, who had weathered storms and celebrated triumphs side by side. "What would you say if I told you I still write to my mother?" Samuel asked quietly. "Even though she's been gone for 8 years, I write letters I never send, telling her about the children and the ranch and how much I still miss her." "I would say that is beautiful. Do you want me to write them properly for you?" "Would you?" "Always. For as long as you need me to." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink and gold. The mountains in the distance were purple shadows against the fading light, and the air smelled of sage and grass and home. "Tell me something," Olivia said eventually. "If you could go back to that day in 1878, knowing everything you know now, would you still walk into that store and ask for paper?" Samuel did not hesitate. "Every time. 1,000 times. You were the best thing that ever happened to me, Olivia. You still are. Even with my ink-stained fingers and my stubborn streak. Especially because of those things. You are exactly who you are supposed to be. You are exactly who I need." As darkness fell and the stars began to emerge, they went inside together, arms around each other's waists. Their children and grandchildren followed, filling the house with noise and laughter and the comfortable chaos of family. Later that night, after everyone had gone to bed, Olivia sat at her desk in the writing room Samuel had built for her. She pulled out a fresh sheet of paper and dipped her pen in ink, then began to write. "My dearest Sarah," she wrote, her elegant script flowing across the page, Samuel asked me to write to you today to tell you about our life and the family we have built. I hope wherever you are, you can see us. I hope you know how much your son loves you still, how much he misses your wisdom and guidance. She wrote for an hour, filling pages with news and memories, with gratitude and love. When she finished, she folded the letter carefully and placed it in an envelope addressed to no one, to be sent nowhere, but written with all the care and beauty she had brought to every letter she had ever penned. Samuel found her there, still sitting at her desk with ink-stained fingers, and he smiled. "Writing again?" he asked. "Always. It is who I am." "Come to bed. You can write more tomorrow." "In a minute. I just want to finish this thought." But she set down her pen and stood, taking his hand. Some thoughts did not need to be written. Some feelings were too big for words, even her carefully chosen, beautifully scripted words. Some things could only be expressed through living, through the daily choice to love and be loved, through the building of a life that mattered. They walked to their bedroom together, past the rooms where their children slept, past the evidence of the life they had created through hard work and determination and unwavering commitment to each other. And if Olivia's fingers were stained with ink, well, that was just proof of a life well lived, of words shared and stories told, of letters written with love and care for a cowboy who could not write but knew exactly what he wanted to say. The years that followed were full and rich, marked by the rhythms of ranch life and the evolving dynamics of a growing family. William took over more of the ranch operations as Samuel's body began to feel the toll of decades of hard work. Grace married her teacher and moved to Cheyenne, but she visited often, bringing her own children to run wild on the land where she had grown up. Matthew went to university, the first in their family to do so, studying agriculture and returning home with new ideas about land management and cattle breeding. Olivia continued to write, her fingers never losing their skill despite arthritis that sometimes made gripping the pen painful. She wrote articles, letters for clients who still sought her services, and eventually began working on a second book, this one about the next generation building on what their parents had created. Samuel's health began to fail in his late 60s, his body worn from years of physical labor. But he remained sharp-minded and good-humored, spending his days advising his son on ranch decisions and playing with his grandchildren, who adored their gentle grandfather with the terrible handwriting and the endless stories. On a warm evening in the spring of 1912, as Olivia and Samuel sat on the porch that had been their refuge for so many years, he took her hand. "I need you to write one more letter for me," he said quietly. "Of course. To whom?" "To you. I want to tell you everything I have never found the words to say, all the things I feel but cannot express properly." So they sat together, and Samuel talked while Olivia wrote. Her handwriting as beautiful as ever despite her age. He spoke of the moment he first saw her, of how his life had changed in that instant. He talked about their struggles and triumphs, about watching her become a mother and seeing her talents recognized by the world. He spoke of quiet mornings and difficult nights, of laughter and tears, of the thousand small moments that had woven together to create their marriage. When he finished, Olivia's face was wet with tears. She folded the letter and placed it in an envelope, then wrote on the front in her elegant script, "To my beloved Olivia, from your husband Samuel, who loves you more than words can say, even these beautiful words you have written for him." "That is not how I said it," Samuel protested gently. "No, but that is what you meant." He died peacefully 3 months later, surrounded by his family holding Olivia's ink-stained hand. His last words were, "Thank you for writing my letters." Olivia lived another 15 years, continuing to write until her fingers could no longer hold a pen. She watched her grandchildren grow up and her great-grandchildren be born. She saw automobiles replace horses in Rock Springs and airplanes fly overhead. She witnessed the world changing in ways she could never have imagined as a young woman writing letters in her father's store. But she never forgot the cowboy who walked through the door in 1878, asking for paper and envelopes, needing help to put his feelings into words. She kept every letter they had written together, bundled with ribbon and stored in her writing desk. She kept the envelope with his final letter to her, the one she had written in his voice but with her hand, the perfect marriage of his heart and her art. When Olivia died in the summer of 1927, her children found dozens of letters in her desk, all addressed to Samuel, all written in her distinctive hand. She had continued writing to him after his death, telling him about their family, about the ranch, about how much she missed him and how much she still loved him. The last letter, written just days before her death, was simple. "My dearest Samuel, my handwriting may have been better than the school teacher's, but you made me better than I ever could have been alone. Thank you for asking me to write your letters home. Thank you for making every word an act of love. I will see you soon. Forever yours, Olivia." They buried her next to him on a hill overlooking the ranch they had built together. The headstone, carved with her beautiful script, read, "Olivia Zimmerman, 1855-1927, writer, wife, mother. Her words brought beauty to the world and love to one cowboy's heart." Their great-granddaughter, visiting the grave years later with her own children, told them the story of how their ancestors met. How a cowboy with terrible handwriting and a woman with ink-stained fingers had fallen in love over letters. How they had built a life and a legacy through partnership and perseverance. How love, expressed through carefully chosen words on cream-colored paper, had created a family that would span generations. And in Rock Springs, Wyoming, now a modern town with paved streets and electric lights, people still talked about the legendary Olivia Emerson Zimmerman, whose handwriting was better than anyone's, whose words had graced newspapers and books, but whose greatest work had been the love letter she wrote for a cowboy who could not write, but knew exactly what he wanted to say. The ranch still stood, still operated by their descendants, a testament to what two people could build when they believed in each other and worked toward a common dream. The house had been expanded many times over the years, but the small writing room Samuel had built for Olivia remained unchanged, preserved as she had left it, with her desk and her chair and shelves full of letters that told the story of a love that began with ink and paper and lasted beyond death itself. And somewhere, in an archive at the Historical Society, a visitor might still find the first letter Olivia ever wrote for Samuel, the one addressed to his mother in Missouri, written in elegant script that revealed nothing of the rough cowboy who had dictated it or the young woman who had given his words beauty. But to those who knew the story, that letter represented the beginning of something extraordinary, a love story written one careful word at a time, a partnership built on trust and respect, and the simple act of helping someone express what was in their heart. The end.